Oh boy. Biggest update that the game's seen. Really. I mean, since the Second Dinner called at the launch when they debuted a YouTube video to go along with this news update, which is live on the official Snap site, but also live in the client. This is me in game right now. Right here in the Snap news. New cards and token shop coming very soon. So there's a YouTube video that goes along with this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the link to that video will be in the description below. And it is called New Cards and How to Get Them. Pretty straightforward. New cards are coming out, and we have new ways to get cards coming out. Sounds great to me. Hi everyone, we've been working on a bunch of new things, and one of the most exciting things is the addition of collector's tokens. We've been talking about this a lot. We've talked about it on the stream a lot. Collector's tokens. What are the details? How am I going to deal with this? For some people, even if they like the game, it's a miserable experience to not have the cards you want, to see other people playing with those cards, me, because I'm a little bit luckier on getting cards. However, I do not have all the cards that I want. And I look at the collection and I look at the cards that I'm missing and I think, what if Magic is like the last card in the pool that I get? Like, what month would that be? You know what I mean? So this is great news. So players want specific cards, and it is becoming probably clearer to people as the launch has gone out now. Again, they called it the launch in the YouTube video. I believe it is still considered a beta, but it's definitely, since it's been on iOS, right? So people are getting a larger collection now. I'm pretty sure anybody that's been following me since the beginning and since I started streaming has probably hit Pool 3 by now. There's a couple things that they're doing here that I like a lot, because I know how this game is making me feel right now. Now I know that, or I have heard, with no evidence whatsoever, just hearsay, but I've heard that there are some content creators that are given full collections so they can experiment and test and maybe even make content with that. Personally, I know what it's going to feel like when I get Magic. And I know what it's going to feel like when I get Deadpool. I'm going to look at that and I'm going to be like, yes! Because there's the element of the chase is one of the many facets of the appeal of this game. The value of single cards, the element of chase, and that desire to complete your collection. So how do you have how do you keep people interested? Because the desire to complete the collection ultimately fulfills itself. And it says so much in this here. So they want to make sure that they have collection goals. And they say, we'll miss it. How do we target specific cards? It's the token shop. So with this image alone, a lot of stuff is explained and shown here. So in-house, the devs call these series and not pools of cards. So it's interesting. Ben Brode addressed the fact that everybody used the terminology pool, but that they call it series. So I don't know if we're gonna start calling it series. Series sounds more prestige, like limited edition. So I kind of like series. So here's an example. Cerebro is in Series 3, Pool 3. It's a card that I actually don't have yet, so it's interesting that they put this one here. So it's an 8-hour rotation that will show up in the shop. You will have an amount of collector's tokens that you can spend on this card. If you are not interested in this card, it will rotate in 8 hours. If you are interested in this card and you can't afford it yet, you can pin it. That's what that thumbtack icon is there, and it'll stay in the shop until you can buy it. Collector's tokens are replacing boosters. So complaining about boosters will be one of those things that like 2 years from now be like, I've been playing so long, you probably don't even know what boosters are, I don't know what that voice is. With this system, you'll be able to make constant progress towards unlocking the cards you want most. So, like, let's say I wanted to play discard right now. I would have a hard time because I would need Colleen Wing and Ghost Rider and Hellcow. So that's still a lot of cards. But every 8 hours, the shop is rotating to a card that I don't have. So that's 3 rotations a day. Now, I don't have I think it's maybe 20 cards. It might be less, it might be more than that, but I don't think it's higher than 25, which I don't have. So that rotation would be pretty quick. So eventually, I think I would get everything I want. Am I going to have enough tokens for that? Me personally, I will have an amount, and you will all have an amount based on your collection level. So the post here, this is one of the most interesting parts because it keeps the chase alive and it keeps you super hyped to open caches, and especially now that you can get tokens in it, which are worth something, as opposed to boosters, which feel worth less. I don't believe. This possibly means that when you play and finish a game, that you only get season pass experience and you no longer get anything else, like boosters being obsolete. Perhaps you would not get them. I have a feeling you're not going to get collector's tokens like as a farmable currency. This is, I believe, happening at the beginning of the season, which is going to be next season, which according to the in-game right now, that this would be 1 week and 6 days away. One new card will enter the game through the season pass, and that card is Silver Surfer. 10 cards come into Series 4. Series 4 is a new, rarer outcome for a chest. So even if you don't have all the Pool 3 cards or Series 3 cards, on a rare occasion, it says 10 times more rare. On a rare occasion, you could get one of these Pool 4 cards. And on an ultra rare occasion, you could get one of these 6 Pool 5 cards. So 1,000 tokens for a card from Pool 3. So that's pretty fair. 3,000 for a Pool 4 card and 6,000 for a Pool 5 card. This is probably the first time the cards have ever been differentiated in value, I think. Before it was just rarity and luck of the draw. But now they're saying that these cards are very rare, but they're not like a rarity. It's not like this is going to be like Magic the Gathering and there's rarity, because these cards will all eventually shift. I have a feeling that Series 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that terminology will stay. I don't think there's going to be a Series 6 the way that they're laying it out right now. It sounds like that they would slowly move cards down. Series 3 would be the common pool that you would be drawing from. And then you would have a rare pool that would have an amount of cards in it. And you would have an ultra rare pool, which would always have an amount of cards in it. So I believe the cards in Series 5 will one day eventually be in Series 3, one day cost 1,000 tokens, but I don't know the timeline on that. Now, if you have hit 500, collection level 500, if you've hit that, but you haven't hit collection level 1,000 yet, you're going to get 3,000 tokens. And if you are not at level 500 yet, as soon as you do hit level 500, you will get 3,000 tokens. So 3,000 tokens will buy 1 Pool 4 card or 3 Pool 3 cards. Then you get into my collection level rank, which is just about, I think it's like 19 something. I'm about to hit 2,000. But if I were to get to the collection level 3,000, that's 12,000 tokens. So that purchases a lot of cards, especially new ones. So let's talk about these new cards, because these cards have been like in the unreleased section of Snap.fan for a while, and we aren't getting, interestingly, we're not getting every shadow card in our collection. There's a couple that will remain shadows. So She-Hulk is an interesting card because she doesn't really fit into a cost archetype. She can come out kind of at any time. You have to really pay attention to unspent mana and what this possibility is. So what's really cool about this card, she costs 1 less for each unspent energy last turn, just last turn. So if you didn't spend any energy on turn 2, it would cost 5. On turn 3, it would cost 4. On turn 4, it would cost 3. On turn 5, it would cost 2. And on turn 6, it would cost 1. The fact that it costs 1 on turn 6 means that you can't play it with Infinite, but since nothing is impossible in this game, Electro or Limbo Magic getting to turn 7 would make it possible that you could drop Infinite and She-Hulk at the same time, because She-Hulk would be free on turn 7, right? And you would have to do that to power up Infinite, so that would also be good with Sunspot. Her existence will keep people guessing, but it could come out with a 5-drop on turn 6, which is which is pretty scary. But of course, you can always see it coming. I think if your opponent ever passes on turn 5, you're already raising the eyebrows for Infinite. So I think that she will fulfill a similar role, but not nearly as strong, but far more flexible. It's interesting because when you compare it directly to the Hulk, she's worse, but she has the element of surprise, right? And that's kind of what She-Hulk does, because she's a fourth wall breaking, what's going to happen next kind of character. So I like that. That's how I had canon it. To come along with She-Hulk is She-Hulk's nemesis, Titania. For the low price of 1 energy, you get 5 strength. But when any card is played at this location, on your side or your opponent's side, the card will switch sides. You would either have to be playing Titania in a position where you know it's not going to switch, like the opponent's side is full, and that's pretty realistic. But in that case, you're kind of looking at it like, where can I get that extra 1 energy's value? Because if you save 1 energy and you get 5 strength out of it, that is a great deal. So, but much like Ebony Maw, she is restricted on where she can be played. And also much like Ebony Maw is kind of like an early game, and then you're restricted. In this one, you're kind of restricted on her play until late game, and then you can get that value. So in some ways, like if you were evaluating it, I would probably put her on the same level as Ebony Maw. But she's the only card at this strength level, at one energy. And yeah. Now this card I'm super excited for. I've talked about this card a lot in on my stream because I like Hazmat as a card, and to play Hazmat, you have to deal with the fact that it's kind of like, if any Gwent OGs out here remember how Yennefer used to work. If you reduce the power of everything on the board, you really only get the benefit for that many more units your opponent has, because you yourself are going to feel the same drawback on your side. Now, this basically breaks the mirror on the mirrored effect of Hazmat, and I think that this is incredibly strong. How would Dino work with this? Your cards can't have their power reduced? Oh, that is an interesting question. If somebody plays Rogue, I think what happens is, I think Dino loses it. This is why. I think what happens is the Dino loses it because the Dino is losing the ability, and the ability is what's granting the strength, and the strength is green. I mean, this is already pretty good. This is a great question. Does he lock in? Like, is it a snapshot? And it's reduced, so like every gain is like also locked in. So like Spider-Woman can't hurt you. Hazmat can't hurt you on your side, but So here's another question then. Let's say I play Vision. Let's say I play Vision on Nidavellir, and Vision is now Vision's now 14. If the power can't be reduced, then I could move Vision and Vision would stay 14. If we were following a similar logic with Dino. That's why I think it's not going to work like that, because I feel like that gameplay wise, it's a great, I've got questions. I think it cares about specifically something that will reduce power, and losing the ongoing ability doesn't necessarily reduce the power. It eliminates the ability that was giving it. The original card power, or like Scorpion. No, Scorpion would probably still be in effect because it wouldn't like retroactively heal it. I think Colossus does do that though. So I think that there's a lot of potential with this card. I feel it makes the card like, it feels like breakable now. Like I didn't really consider the breakability of it. I just thought, okay, well that works pretty well with Hazmat. But we must move on. We must figure this out. But that's a great question. Somebody's going to answer that question soon. Absorbing Man. 4 energy for 3 strength. On reveal. If the last card you played has an on reveal, this card copies it. This card feels pretty good. First thing I'm seeing in the chat is 2 Ghost Riders. Yes, but the thing that Ghost Rider pulled out would still be gone, so you'd also need 2 targets. And then, like, most on reveals around 3, like Ironheart would be one, so you'd be able to play So at that point, you're getting 9 for the 4, which is on par, I think, if you look at conditional 4 energy cards like Warpath. 9 if it's good, 10 if it's really good. No, it won't copy Devil Dinosaur. That's Mystique. Mystique can already do that in game now. Absorbing Man can play like Jubilee. So you play Jubilee and then you play Absorbing Man and you'd have 1 left over in this case. Oh, you can double Storm in this way. And Wolfsbane is also a pretty good backup plan. Juggernaut's pretty good too. Double Juggernaut for that Jug life. I actually think that that's probably how I would use it. I guess Absorbing Man would act just like Carnage, right? So would act as a destroy, another destroy. So if you didn't want to play Deathlock and felt like you wanted to play a more expensive version, but even Venom and all that stuff. Could also give you a demon from the hood. I'm just looking at it now. Like, there's a lot of on reveals that are worth repeating. Moon Knight would be annoying. You make your opponent discard 2 cards in a row. Last card with an on reveal effect. Oh yeah, it has to be the last card. So it's a similar restriction as Mystique has, where if you play something out of order, if you play something without an on reveal effect and then play Absorbing Man, nothing to copy would come up. But I think it's just another one of those flexible game plan cards. But you are looking for, a good chunk of points from your 4 energy card, like really kind of solidifying your game plan. So your game plan has to be about on reveal. So if you played Odin into Absorbing Man, Odin would then trigger Absorbing Man, which would then trigger Odin, which would then trigger Odin, which would then trigger Odin. Is that how it would work? Oh, Electro. That is a good one too. You would get the energy, no drawback. And I think that extra energy, it makes a lot possible. 2 extra energy. Every turn afterwards too. I wonder what that deck could get away with. Jubilee would be in this deck as well. The more I think about it, the more interesting the card is. But I think that's the whole point of these cards. Maria Hill. I believe this is an Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maria Hill is a 2 energy, 3 strength with an on reveal of add a random 1-cost card to your hand. Eventually, like most cards with a very understood range, you will start to evaluate like all the possibilities. What was the card in Hearthstone? Piloted Shredder, where you started to evaluate all the possible things that could come out of the Shredder because it can only be a 2-cost card. So the stuff like that. In addition, this is just a fantastic card to play with Angela because it guarantees you get an extra proc there. And it follows along with a similar theme that Nick Fury has, and that you'll see another one here, Agent Coulson has, that they're card generators. Classic Doomsayer from Piloted Shredder. Yep, that's the one. That is exactly the one. I think any card that wants to just add cards to their hand, like your other options here are Sentinel or Cable. Cable gives you information, but maybe not a card you can play. So would you rather have Cable or a card like this? Or would you run both in a low-cost deck that wants to just generate higher-cost cards, which is kind of effectively, it's going to be kind of like a casino deck in that way, because I'm going to go right into Agent Coulson here. Agent Coulson is a 3 energy, 4 strength, adds a random 4 cost and a random 5 cost to your hand on reveal. So this would be another on reveal that Absorbing Man could copy if you just wanted to go full casino. I think that it's interesting that you can just kind of build the curve in. You got Agent 13 who gives you a random card. Maria Hill's going to give you a 1 cost. Agent Coulson's going to come out, make sure the curve is good, and then Nick Fury can come out and give you 6 costs. Yeah, Cable also steals. These cards, in my opinion, feel fairly low-powered. I do like that they're all, they do share like a common theme because they are part of the same team in S.H.I.E.L.D. here, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has add a random card element to all of the cards of theirs. But I feel like in general, these are cards that like you're going to get from the Triskelion that are like really going to change your game plan, because why not play it, right? But yeah, I think it's like they're fair is what I'm saying. They're add a random card is worse than a draw, and a draw is very powerful in this game. But it's always more powerful because of the consistency of your deck, not necessarily because you need options or cards. It's because you need You need the cards you really, really want. But if you are trying to just add cards to your hand and play Dino, stuff like that, Coulson's better than Maria. Yeah, because Coulson is giving you options that you will absolutely be able to use. Maria could give you Ebony Maw, and you might not be able to use that at all. Oh, Quinjet. Yeah, and Quinjet works, right? Quinjet Flavorfully works quite nicely here. So playing Quinjet and also doubling that ongoing ability and playing Sarah, perhaps, you could just kind of pollute the board with whatever it gives you, but you are kind of at the whim of what you get. But the good thing is it doesn't really feel like there are a lot of bad cards in this game, like really bad, like truly bad cards, like but it would drastically alter your game plan, like if you got Warpath, let's say. And then for the final shield card that was added, that's going to be added in Pool 4, Helicarrier. So I feel like these would be I guess it's because there is an elite feeling of these new pool cards, but there is sort of there is a fairly low-powered feeling from these cards. So Helicarrier is interesting because it wants to be discarded, and otherwise it's playing slightly better America Chavez, which is, 10 points can win you something a lot of the time. 10 points can be a break point. But the goal appears to be that when you discard it, you get 3 random cards. So like a mini Triskelion effect. I just don't know, outside of playing a Quinjet deck, why this would be great for you. Perfect for Hela deck. Gives you more cards in your hand to discard and not discard Hela. Yeah. That is true. It increases discard consistency, but I don't know, but nothing. It's just it's hard to evaluate, right? It's hard to evaluate something this random that seems like it's not even meant to be played. It's just kind of there to be brought back. You've played a lot of Hela? I have, yeah. I never got Ghost Rider, I never got Hellcow, and I never got Colleen Wing, but I do have Hela. So I have the big piece, but I need the little pieces. So if we're talking about the shop, I could go right after something like that. I could target that and play it. I feel like it's just kind of a low-powered card that people will experiment with, but I'm struggling to see a situation where like the Helicarrier deck is dominating the meta, So this is a huge piece for you. You would want to play Collector here because that's discard plus 3 strength. So I guess that's pretty good because this is probably happening like on turn 3 or 4. So Collector is good with all of these. And now we got to talk about a card that would absolutely need some level of support to be even considered remotely good. There's a couple of things that this card will be able to do that will have. There's still going to be some amazing moments with this card, I'm sure, but they're going to be rare. I just saw Wakanda Forever. I like this character a lot. I like the way that he's portrayed. I like the way the actor carries himself and delivers his dialogue. I just thought he's just a great character, I think. So this card, unfortunately, is not done very well. M'Baku seems like he would be like a brawny fighter type card, but this is just not a threatening card. So this card, unfortunately, is not done very well. M'Baku seems like he would be like a brawny fighter type card, but this is just not a threatening card, and it feels like it could just be one of the worst cards in the game. 1 energy for 2 strength. If it's in your deck at the end of the game, it will leap to a random location. So here are the situations where this card could do something for you. 1, you just got District X and you had no idea it was in your deck and it wins you a location. That's going to happen to somebody. That's going to be a Reddit highlight when this card comes out, because no one's going to have to collect it for that to happen. No one's going to have to experiment it for that to happen. It will start happening. So, yeah, it's like the snap version of Knickers, the dog. Yeah. Kukulkan, the feather serpent god. Like that line, and also when Namor introduces himself. They did such a good job with this character that they should change Atlantis in this game to Talokan. Forget about that. Let Aquaman have it, My people call me a Kukulkan. My enemies call me Namor. The Fishman. The Fishman. Oh man, there's so many slow motion sequences. I'm not going to spoil anything. Don't worry, guys. There's so many slow motion sequences in that movie that are just so damn good, and M'Baku is part of one of them. So I mean, like Okoye will boost this card, but it's like as soon as you draw it, it is what it is. It's like Angel, but it's worse than Angel. Because you basically never have to draw this card. So you would need to have something that put M'Baku back in your deck. And the only thing that could do that reliably is nothing. Crystal allows you to reshuffle your hand into your deck, but you could draw them again because you do draw 3 cards afterwards. So unless there's a way to put something in your deck, or perhaps a card that has an on reveal, shuffle another card at this location back into your deck. But even then, there would have to be a lot of value on that card because you'd still have to play M'Baku to like try to rescue it. Keep your hand full so you can't draw him. Gulo, that is the best thing I have heard about this card because it makes it a lot less inevitable. So here we have all these cards that are adding random cards to your hand. The goal is so your hand is full, your dinos are juicy, and M'Baku is just chilling. You're just snapping away at that carrot, waiting. Lockjaw, but then you've got this guy in your deck waiting to be pulled with Lockjaw, which doesn't feel great. But you know what? That still is probably the best way to use him. That's like you need any more benefit. Like Lockjaw needs any more benefits. But yeah, you have to yell Kukulkan every time he jumps out of your deck. Kukulkan. All right, another character that was also in Wakanda Forever represented was Attuma. So it's interesting. This card, M'Baku, She-Hulk, on a more connected release timeline, these cards could have been released in promotion with the shows and the movies that came out. So Attuma, this is a card we were talking about where does 4 energy really start to pay off? And you look at stuff like Warpath at 9, but Attuma here is getting up to 10. But the catch is he's got to be alone. So he fits in with the underwater theme here of being alone grants me more power. Namor also being 10 when he's by himself. But unlike Namor, Attuma is just like, forget it. Attuma would love the Space Throne, yes, much like Namor does. There are lots of situations where to cover off a lane, you can cover off an open lane, an open location with Attuma and still play a 2-drop on the last turn for what it's worth. But let's say you were playing Beast, you had some sort of cranked up Carnage or Venom, and then you were also, and I mean, anything that benefits your mana is better and better and better. So I think that at the end of the day, you're looking at kind of like, much like if you have Machine World on the board, like, you're going to play something there, but it's going to be at the end. It's going to be at the end. So I feel like this is one of those things where at the end of the game, there's going to be a lot of value. But you probably have to play it near the end of the game because it also telegraphs what you can do, kind of like a reverse Warpath. But Attuma is like a bigger risk. But I think that the cost is fair. I don't know. I'd have to try it. But I think that there's a lot with this Be Alone deck, and you can run stuff like Claw, and that would work with like storming off locations as well, where maybe you'd only want to drop one thing in the first place. Although you can't do that because Storm would also be occupied there. So there are limited situations where you can play this. Going along with this as well is another card, Orka, which appears to be one of the underwater people, which I guess they're not. I guess they're Atlanteans in the comics, but they're now Talokani. I'm not really sure if that's even what's happening here. This is like if Venom was a whale. Like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. This is a character I know nothing about. But Orka is like a supercharged Namor in that he plays for 14 points. So what this card, you would evaluate this like Giganto, a conditional 14. That's probably it. I mean, it's not like some of these cards are great, like Luke Cage, like endless possibilities. But some of these cards feel either low powered or fairly easy to evaluate because we see these already in the game. Actually, when I saw Orka on the unreleased, I thought this was a placeholder ability because it's the same ability as Namor. But this is an interesting situation. So you have Attuma at 4, Namor at 5. No, Namor is also 4, right? So Namor is at 4, and also Attuma, and then Orka. So that's 3 units that all want to be alone. So is there a deck out there that just is very, very patient here? Is it Namor or Namor? Well, if you like the lore of Wakanda Forever, it's Namor, 100%. And I think that what they did with the character is fantastic. I think it's like, Aquaman's in theaters, bookending this release with the first one, and then the next one's coming out. And he's all about Atlantis. So they really, really, really differentiated. You know what? I'm glad you find that funny, Gulo, because I do too. I don't know what it is. It wasn't even funny the first time. Like everything was very solid and poignant in that movie. And that's exactly how he would deliver that line. And it was a very good point, but man, it just rolls around in my head all day. So yeah, so some of these cards, it's a pretty straightforward game plan. And usually a lot of these cards are put into existence where it's about the pool of cards that can be pulled from. So all of these cards are added to the game to the random pool. So you will see all of these cards and you will have experiences with them if you play stuff like Agent 13 and the Triskelion and stuff like that. So, or District X. So this also affects the raft. This is now a pretty good outcome from the raft, and another extra one. All right, so Series 5, these cards are going to be very, very rare, but we now have these cards as collectible cards. And the first one is Galactus. We know Galactus. We've played with Galactus. Galactus has jumped into our hands or jumped out of the X Mansion or whatever in a lot of situations. 6 energy, 3 strength. On reveal, if this is your only card here, destroy all other locations. So up until now, we just have kind of tried to ever work Galactus into our game plan, but now we can build around it. So you could do it like, this seems like it would be a wave card. You would want to get this down on turn 4. You'd want to cheat this out, but you can't cheat it out with like Jubilee or anything at all. You have to be able to play it from hand into an empty location. It's like, it's not too unlike Professor X, where you're probably going to need to create a perfect moment. But unlike Professor X, like you can't lead off with Spidey here. You can't have anything there. Load it up with goblins. Yeah, that would be a great way to spend your turns. That would be something that would work. Mr. Negative. Yeah, Mr. Negative changes it up a little bit, much like Professor Xavier. Playing something like this on turn 3 can mean the game. I don't know. Like, I'm going to have to see how this card works out, because I feel like unlike Professor X, like when Professor X locks down a location, it can feel like the game is over, but you still have options potentially. Galactus removes the options. So also it's worth noting that these destroys that happen, so if there are any cards on the locations, those cards are destroyed as well. So they trigger the card death. So if you play Galactus before, like if it's not your last turn and you found a way to get Galactus down before that, you do have a free 12 strength play with death, probably. So this card's very interesting. Set all cards at this location to 3 power. So this is a card that can just, like, it's Shang-Chi-esque. Like, this card will solve a ton of problems, but it may not get you the advantage that you're looking for. Yeah, it's like, it's almost like it silences the cards. Like, it puts them all at a base 3. I don't know. This one does not feel very strong to me. Do ongoing abilities still boost power after the ability triggers? Right. So it's another question about Dino, just like Luke Cage. Oh, well, this would work with Luke Cage, wouldn't it? Because in theory, if you have Luke Cage on the board, Valkyrie will not set your cards to 3. So that's pretty powerful. So it's cool that we get to at least see a lot of these cards working together. That's a fact. You get to play her and make the location 9-9, and then tempt the opponent. It does put your opponent in a must-play situation. And let's say you want to play Juggernaut in that last spot. You know, it's kind of like with the Juggernaut and Storm. If the only way that they can beat you is by putting a unit there, Juggernaut solves that problem. Juggernaut also creates some problems, but man, what a card. This card doesn't seem like it's breakable, right? This card doesn't seem like it's not like we're looking at Galactus, where Galactus's text is outrageous. Destroy 2 of the 3 locations. That is a wild effect, right? This effect is a little bit more tame. Cerebro would do it. Cerebro, in this case, where you have one of the E's as a 3. So Cerebro hitting all 3s is definitely a strategy. This is going to be I think this is a little bit more of a wait and see. I think though, the idea is Luke Cage. So it's an interesting card. It just seems expensive. Super Skrull. 4 energy, 2 strength, ongoing. This has the ongoing effects of all enemy cards. I feel about this card the same way I feel about Rogue, in that it's probably not going to come up as much as I think it is. Again, you're getting low strength for the energy spent, but you are getting all the ongoing effects of all cards, which means that if there's a negative ongoing effect, like Lizard, Super Skrull is going to get that too. Red Skull. If Red Skull's on the field, you probably don't want to play this card. Oh, no. I'm just saying that, like, as a card that works with what the enemy is doing as far as ongoing, Rogue cares about what the enemy is doing, and so does this card. So both of those cards are only as good as what your enemy is doing. So it's like, if ongoing is extremely strong, I mean, you still could steal. I mean, I feel like ongoing would run Lizard to make this card worse, and happily do it because it already works. Seems like a slot in with a certain location metas rather than a normal deck slot. Yeah, like if Onslaught Citadel or something like that was a hot location, this card would be a hot card for sure. But I think this is a pretty fairly priced card, and I think that as far as like control abilities and abilities that will kind of mess with the opponent, this has potential. I feel like I'm trying to think of the situation where, outside of a Wong situation where Rogue would also excel. But even then, this won't stop Wong like Rogue will. This just gives you Wong's ability as well. So you have to take advantage of that. It's going to be fun to get like in a random outcome where it's going to work really well. Super Skrull famously has the powers of all 4 Fantastic Four at the same time. It's definitely a powerful effect. Like the first time I read it, I thought that could be pretty wild. Like that's a powerhouse of a unit. That unit's doing a lot. But it is only going to be as strong as the meta, I think. But these cards, like this card and Onslaught, like it really dictates how strong you can make some of these ongoing abilities. Because all of these abilities seem to be made to be broken right now. Professor X? That's interesting. Ant-Man, Captain America. Yeah, Ant-Man's pretty common. But Professor X is interesting because your opponent has to play it. But as soon as your opponent does play it, this seems bad. Like if I had Super Skrull on the board and my opponent played Professor X, my opponent could effectively lock down 2 lanes in that way. Yeah, Sandman, Electro's negative is the same as Sandman's effect. But it only affects you, Electro. But if you get rid of Electro, you don't have that drawback anymore and you keep the mana. It'll be great once in every 15 games. Yeah, this is like a highlight card, like Rogue is. Like, I stole the Wong ability right before I snapped, stuff like that. All right, we are almost through these. Shuri, another Wakanda Forever character here, Black Panther character. Shuri, again, like Series 5, this is where Series 5 just feels like the latest cards, not necessarily cards of like great prestige. But this is a pretty strong card. Basically, it means like the next thing you're going to play, it's as if you're playing it on Shuri's lab. This on reveal effect is also quite strong to copy. Shuri, Black Panther, Zola, game over. Well, yeah, definitely. She's definitely like suited to work with the rest of the Black Panther characters. So that hand buff, big boost type of play, and thematically works. And if you get Shuri's lab as well, you know, this game, I've seen this game break a bunch of times, like because players have like broken the upper limit. Shuri pass Infinite, 40 strength. Yeah, that could happen. Yeah, this is another card that walks the line of like just being asked to be broken here. But Black Panther has this effect kind of built in inherently. This with Black Panther is kind of just you're just really committing to it, and I feel like committing to it now, like it's kind of like it's the Shang-Chi problem. If it's over 9, it could be any number. Psylocke, Wong, Shuri, Black Panther, Zola. That's the combo right there, Haplar. Yeah, that's the core. It just needs the shell. So this card would see play. Like the thing is, this card has a number of applications. I'm sure there's a lot of cards at 5 that double up. Like imagine this: you play this, and then you play Attuma. Now you've got 20 in that lane. You don't have to put anything else in there. Hobgoblin, yeah, you would be able to give -16 or -6, depending on which goblin you're spending. But yes, all the tricks. All the dirty tricks that you experienced or dealt out when Shuri's lab was featured, that's going to be basically she's going to be able to take those moments, and it's another just a really strong on reveal. So the fact that so if you played Absorbing Man though, you would that would be the card that you were doubling. So you'd play Absorbing Man for 6 and then double the next thing. I don't know if that's good. Professor X. Yeah. Professor X with any extra power and like your opponent would have to see that coming and also be able, like, can you stop Professor X at 6? Yo, Erbal, how you doing? Makes the single lane dudes better. Yeah. You know, especially like you play this before, like any 4-cost card can happen before Daredevil. So here's another thing where you can answer a different lane with just a ton of points where you know it's going to be, where you know the difference is going to make the most sense. But the potential of this one has this card has so much potential because we're just talking about doubling the number that wins you games. So we know that that's a very powerful effect. So the only question would be, can you afford to play her? Can you afford to put this location, put a 2 strength at this location? The answer is yeah, probably. Yeah. It's definitely a good trade-off, I think. It just has the risk of creating a tall unit that can get removed. Carnage doubles post eating at the lab. That is correct. Yeah, and so does Venom. Yeah. So pretty good card for those cards too, which are my favorite cards. Yeah, I imagine it would work just like you are playing it on Shuri's lab. So after everything is done, then it doubles. Yeah. Good question. So now we have Bast. This one's interesting as well. This is a 1 energy, 1 strength god. On reveal, set the power of all cards in your hand to 3. So, like when we're looking at stuff like Valkyrie, where it's like setting everything to 3 at the location, this is a bit more of a, because that's 5 energy. This is like at the beginning of the game that you would do this. So you would be running cards like Mystique, Ironheart. This would probably be in a Mr. Negative deck where it would improve. This is like the Mr. Negative. This would improve your hand because as soon as you draw those cards, they are 0 power. They will not be the 0 strength powerhouses that you need them to be. But Iron Man at 3 alone it's a lot better than 0 when you're playing him for 6 with that effect. So I think that this card probably is just overall pretty good value. Electra at 3 would be good. Yeah, that's a good example of a card that is already kind of punching pretty fairly. It's a pretty good swing of points, but yeah, Electra at 3, like Wakandan Embassy, like it's like a Wakandan Embassy on your 1 strength, Kickstarts Human Torch or Deadpool. Absolutely, it does. Anything that doubles up at 1, and there's not a lot of them. This can easily be 6 for 1. Oh, like the value you get back? Yes, absolutely. I think that the value you get back on this, for the most part, in an Angela deck, and you're like, if half your deck is running it, but yeah, for the most part, you're just gonna get a lot of extra value when you actually start playing the cards that matter. This is also fine. It makes Carnage stronger, and it's on reveal, and it's not like an ongoing or anything. So you can just play it with Carnage. Cerebro as well, just like how Valkyrie would work. Yeah, the Cerebro. So yeah, this card Cerebro here, your highest power cards get 2 power. Also, the feature card here in the shop. So Cerebro definitely getting support in Valkyrie and Bast, but it's not always going to be great. and it's not, it's, you know, you don't want to draw this at the end of the game. But, you know, if you're running Angela, you could probably get away with running this. And the last one, the big daddy, here we go. Thanos. Thanos is finally going to be a collectible card, a super rare card that I will likely buy this for the entirety of my tokens. Thanos is a 8 strength for 6 energy, and we've seen him in the game, but we've never been able to build a deck with him, because if you do build a deck with him and you start the game with Thanos in your deck, you also shuffle 6 Infinity Stones into your deck. Now that sounds terrible, right? 6 extra cards in a 12 card game. I'm never going to find them. Well, the Infinity Stones are pretty damn strong. The Mind Stone draws 2 stones from your deck. All these stones, so this is 1 energy, 1 strength, draw 2 stones. So there you go. That's going to get you those stones. Power Stone is 1 energy, 3 strength. If you've played all 6 stones, Thanos has plus 10. So now Thanos has 18 strength, wherever he is. Big Cthulhu vibes here. Reality Stone, on reveal, transform this location to a new one and draw a card. 1 for 1. Soul Stone is on reveal, draw a card, and ongoing. Enemy cards here have -1 power, 1 for 1. And the Space Stone, on reveal, next turn, you can move 1 card at this location. Draw a card, 1 for 1. And the Time Stone, on reveal, gain +1 energy next turn, draw a card. So the Time Stone, the Space Stone, the Soul Stone, the Reality Stone, and the Mind Stone all draw cards. The Mind Stone draws 2 stones. So that's a lot of card draw. Drawing cards in general is a pretty powerful effect, but when you're trying to draw specific cards, and those cards kind of perpetuate, it was like when you put a trap in your opponent's deck in Hearthstone. When they drew it, it would explode and be bad, but they would also get to draw another card. It's almost like it never costs you your draw. It's extra. The issue is, will you have room to set all this up? You do have to play 6 1-drops. So Khazar is paying attention to that. Also, all of these, like this is an ongoing ability, so Onslaught would give Thanos +20 in this situation. When you double up on the on reveal, like you could play Absorbing Man with these stones, and you would be able, like if you play Absorbing Man and the Mind Stone, you've drawn like all the stones. Yeah, and the ongoing is if you played all 6 stones, so it doesn't matter if the stones are there. Also, you want to keep in mind that I believe Quinjet makes these all free. I'm trying to think of just some other combos here. These are going to be fun decks. Yeah, Thanos is like, yeah, you need to have like Thanos, Angela, Bishop, Quinjet. I don't know, man. It sounds like a pretty, like the Space Stone, like you can play the Space Stone and then move it like it's Nightcrawler, like for Angela, I believe, right? Beast, yeah, you could replay the stones. You can replay the stones. The one you'd want to replay the most is Time Stone. So yeah, the Time Stone is like a little mini Psylocke. Space Stone is like a little mini cloak kind of. Falcon can pick them up. Yeah, if you see if there's value to playing them again, there are a lot of cards that interact with 1-cost cards. And Killmonger cleaning up is also fine. So you could play, and this is so flavorful. The lore, the hot lore. Thanos in the comics was originally gathering the Infinity Stones to impress Lady Death. If you Killmonger and hit the stones, Lady Death works perfectly in this deck. There you go. Juicy lore. They replace themselves, but it's only 6 turns, and turn 6 is Thanos, and you must draw Thanos. Yes. Yeah, the deck is going to be fun, and it's going to give you a lot of permutations, but sometimes Thanos is not going to win. You know, Thanos is not going to get all the stones. But every time you play the game, you're hunting for the stones. It's a very, like, just that as a concept for a deck is, there's just like so many possibilities, because you can do a little bit of everything when you have all 6 stones. I think the Reality Stone is almost like a liability. Like, what if you just really don't want to change the location? What if you change it into a bad location? It's that Scarlet Witch fear in the back of your mind. But that's the only real, like, outside of the general, like, drawback of having these cards in your deck and having to formulate this game plan, that is probably the only other drawback, I would say. But I find this, I just think they did a really good job with capturing the characters in Marvel. And I feel like this one in particular, you know, not every card is going to have like all these extra cards generated and all these multitude of random effects, but they did this one right. They did this one right. What else could you do in today's world after the MCU did such a good job bringing this guy to life and basically making the Infinity Stone something that just everybody knows what that is, the Infinity Gauntlet. Everybody knows what the snap is. Almost. I mean, almost everybody. Thanos is a household name, you know? All right, so that's it for the cards. There's only one more card to talk about. On reveal, so Silver Surfer is another card that kind of fits this theme of 3 that is happening with these releases. Valkyrie, Bast, and now Silver Surfer. It's all 3 in different ways, but it's kind of around that. So give all your other 3-cost cards plus 3 power. This is something that is particularly good, and they say so in this video. Playing him multiple times is like playing that on reveal. This is another on reveal that Absorbing Man can take, even though he is not. It's other 3-cost cards, which means Absorbing Man will boost the Silver Surfer. So a lot of these cards do have a lot of interactions with each other. Sarah Surfer, yeah, that could be a deck for sure. You want to play like a nice low curve and then maybe play some like White Queen or something that can like top you up if you need to, but like this is one of the fewer like swarm strategies. Like this would be unique to Khazar, like very specifically because it cares about 3-cost cards and not about 1-cost cards. But it is sort of that. It is a different archetype of going wide. So here we have Bast, Negative, and Surfer. So you play Bast, which changes Mr. Negative's power from -1 to 3, and Silver Surfer to 3. Yeah, that's very good. Mr. Negative is going to see a lot of action, I think, with some of these cards. So it is the Power Cosmic season that will be coming up next. So just quickly here, Ben Brode, man, awesome. He is a happy dude, and he should be. Hit a grand slam.